At my daughter's engagement party, I pretended to be a beggar to test her future husband. He looked at me with contempt and said, "Get out, you filthy old man. You don't belong here." I only stayed silent and smiled. He thought I didn't know what he had done. I had prepared a gift. When I pressed the button to play the video in front of 487 guests, that would be the moment that would destroy everything he had. I'm grateful you're here. Before we begin, have you ever had to choose between protecting someone and respecting their freedom? Comment below and tell me where you're watching from. This story blends wisdom with dramatized elements for educational impact. Names may be fictional, but the lessons about family trust and difficult choices are what truly matter. The rain had started again, that thin October drizzle that turns sidewalks into slick mirrors reflecting the amber glow of streetlights. I sat on the damp concrete outside the Harborview Grand, my back pressed against the hotel's limestone wall, a piece of cardboard propped on my knees. The sign was hand-lettered in black marker, "Homeless Vet. Anything helps. God bless." 15 feet away, luxury cars glided up to the entrance. Valets in crisp burgundy uniforms opened doors for guests in evening wear. None of them looked at me. I was invisible. Exactly as I had planned. The transformation had taken 3.5 hours. Patricia O'Neill, a theatrical makeup artist I had hired through Henry Walsh, had worked in silence, applying layers of spirit gum and prosthetics that turned my face into something weathered and forgotten. She had grayed my beard, added broken capillaries to my nose, clouded my eyes with contact lenses. The jacket I wore was authentic, purchased from a veteran's estate sale, faded olive green, with a name tape that read Jenkins and a 1st Marine Division patch. The jeans were worn through at the knees. Everything smelled like wood smoke and damp wool scents Patricia had added with careful attention to detail. In my right hand, I held a plastic coffee cup with a few coins. In my left, a small American flag on a wooden stick. At my feet sat a green duffel bag containing a wool blanket, a paperback, and a water bottle. Props, all of it. But props that told a story. I had spent $150,000 over the past 10 weeks to arrive at this moment. Henry Walsh had conducted the investigation. Patricia had created the disguise. Arthur Sullivan, the hotel manager, had coordinated logistics. David Torres, head of security, had positioned his team. I had approved every detail, every expense, every risk, because some tests are worth any price. But sitting there on the cold sidewalk, rain soaking through my jacket, I felt doubt creep in like the October chill. What if I was wrong? What if Ryan Westbrook genuinely loved my daughter? What if I was just a paranoid father so terrified of losing Vanessa that I had invented threats where none existed? Catherine would have known what to say. My wife had always been the one who could cut through my overthinking. But Catherine had been gone for 6 years, taken by cancer at 58. Protect her, she had told me in those final weeks, but let her live. Do not cage her in your fear. Was this protection or control? All I knew was that Ryan Westbrook had entered my daughter's life 14 months ago, and something about him had felt wrong from the very first handshake. Too smooth, too perfect, too interested in details about my business, my assets, my plans. And when Henry's investigation had uncovered the debts, the malpractice cases, the pattern of targeting wealthy patients, I had known. This was not paranoia. This was prevention. An elderly couple emerged from a taxi walking toward the hotel doors. Their path took them within 5 feet of where I sat. I made eye contact with the woman. She glanced at my sign, at my cup, at my face. Then she looked away and quickened her pace. Her husband steered her past me as if I were a puddle to step around. Moments later, a younger man in an expensive suit approached, talking loudly on his phone about quarterly projections. As he passed, he tossed a quarter toward my cup, without breaking stride or eye contact with his screen. The coin missed, clattered on the sidewalk, and rolled into a crack. He did not notice. This was America, the invisible poor. We walk past them every day, and we have trained ourselves not to see. They are background noise, scenery. As long as they stay in their designated spaces, we can pretend they are not fully human. I had been one of them once. In 1989, when I was 24, and my father's debts had swallowed everything, I had spent 8 months living in shelters in Seattle. I remembered what it felt like to ask for help and be met with disgust. That experience had shaped everything I became. It had taught me that dignity is something you fight for, and it had taught me to see people others overlooked. That was why this test mattered. I needed to know who Ryan was when he thought no one important was watching. Would he see a homeless veteran and offer help? Or would he see what others had seen, an obstacle to step around a problem to ignore, a crackle of static in my ear? David Torres's voice came through low and calm. "Sir, everything is in position. Vanessa's expected in 15 minutes. I tapped my chest twice. Our signal for acknowledgement. Headlights swept across the wet pavement. A silver Honda Civic pulled in. My heart began to pound. I recognized that car. It was Vanessa's best friend. In moments, my daughter would walk past me, and she would not recognize her own father. Vanessa stepped out wearing a white cocktail dress under her coat, her face glowing with happiness. She laughed at something Lauren said. She looked so young, so trusting, so completely unaware that the man she planned to marry was dangerous. I gripped the cardboard sign tighter. In 90 minutes, I would stand in that ballroom and destroy my daughter's happiness to save her future. And there was a very real chance she would never forgive me. But I would rather have her alive and angry than dead or damaged and grateful. Vanessa and Lauren walked toward the hotel entrance, deep in conversation. Vanessa never glanced my way. She disappeared through the glass doors, still laughing, still happy, still unaware. At 6:02, a black BMW pulled up to the valet stand. My chest tightened. The driver's door opened, and Ryan Westbrook stepped out into the October rain. He wore a navy suit that probably cost $3,000. His shoes were Italian leather. His watch caught the light, a Tag Heuer. He looked every inch the successful surgeon, the perfect son-in-law. He straightened his tie, checked his reflection in the car window. Then he turned toward the hotel entrance. His path would take him within 10 feet of where I sat. I adjusted my grip on the cardboard sign, cleared my throat. This was it. The test had begun. 14 months earlier, on a bright June afternoon, Vanessa had brought Ryan home for the first time. I had been expecting someone ordinary, a fellow nurse maybe. Instead, Ryan Westbrook walked into my study with the confidence of a man who had never doubted his place in the world. My study overlooked the harbor through floor-to-ceiling windows in Marina Heights, where my house sat on 2 acres of waterfront property. I was standing at those windows when I heard Vanessa's voice in the entryway, bright with nervous excitement. She appeared in the doorway wearing jeans and a simple blouse. Behind her came a man in a tailored navy blazer and gray slacks that fit too perfectly to be off the rack. His shoes were Italian leather polished to a mirror shine. On his wrist, a watch caught the light. Tag Heuer, $8,000. For someone who claimed to still be paying off medical school loans, as Vanessa had mentioned, it was an interesting choice. Ryan extended his hand. His grip was firm, almost competitive. "Mr. Harrigan, it's an honor to finally meet you." His eyes, though, were not on me. They were cataloging the room. The mahogany bookshelves lined with maritime law texts and first editions. The brass telescope. The framed photographs of ships bearing the Harrigan Maritime logo. The Winslow Homer seascape on the wall. He looked at my belongings the way an estate appraiser looks at antiques. Not with appreciation, with estimation. Please call me Stanley." I gestured to the leather chairs. "Vanessa mentioned you're an orthopedic surgeon." "Nah, that's right. I specialize in complex reconstructive procedures. High-profile patients prefer discretion." Athletes, executives, people who need to be back on their feet quickly without media attention. He said it casually, but the message was clear. He worked with wealthy people. He moved in elite circles. Lunch was served on the terrace. Ryan dominated the conversation, steering it repeatedly back to his career, his residency at Johns Hopkins, his fellowship in sports medicine. Vanessa tried several times to talk about her work at Harborview Children's Hospital, but each time Ryan found a way to minimize it. "Pediatrics is so rewarding," he said, squeezing her hand. "Not lucrative, of course, but rewarding. It takes a special person to work with children for that salary." Vanessa's smile flickered. "Someone has to do it. Not everything is about money." "Of course not." Ryan's tone was indulgent, the way you might agree with a child. "That's what I love about you. You're so genuine." I set down my fork carefully. First red flag. The casual dismissal disguised as a compliment. Ryan turned his attention back to me. "Vanessa mentioned you're in shipping. How many vessels do you operate?" "A few dozen." I kept my answer vague. The profit margins must be incredible right now. With supply chain issues, shipping rates have tripled. "It's been a good few years." "I imagine succession planning is on your mind. Vanessa is your only child, correct?" There it was, the second red flag. We had been talking for 30 minutes and already he was asking about inheritance. Most people waited months before broaching such topics. I said, "I haven't finalized those plans. It's not really a topic for first meetings." The conversation moved on, but I kept watching. The way Ryan touched Vanessa's arm when he wanted her attention. The way he interrupted her without seeming to notice. Later, when Vanessa mentioned she and her best friend Lauren were planning a hiking trip the following weekend, Ryan tilted his head with concern. "Didn't we talk about looking at engagement rings next Saturday?" Vanessa blinked. "We did. Tuesday night, after dinner. Remember?" His voice was patient, puzzled. "Unless you'd rather go hiking." I watched confusion flicker across Vanessa's face. Self-doubt. She frowned, trying to remember a conversation that I suspected had never happened. Maybe I forgot. I'm sorry. Lauren can reschedule. Are you sure I don't want to pressure you?" "No, looking at rings is more important." Ryan smiled and kissed her temple. "You work so hard. It's easy to forget things when you're exhausted." Gaslighting. He was rewriting reality, making her doubt her own memory, training her to defer to his version of events. Catherine had served on the board of a domestic violence prevention nonprofit. I had heard the counselors describe this exact technique. After Ryan left, I found Vanessa in the kitchen. "He seems successful," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Dad, he's amazing. He's everything I never knew I wanted." "How did you two meet?" "A hospital fundraiser. We started talking about patient care models and 3 hours later they were turning off the lights. He asked me to dinner the next night. And he knows I work in shipping." "Yes, why?" "Just curious." Vanessa's expression shifted to something more guarded. "Dad, please don't do this. That background check thing. Ryan isn't a gold digger. He has his own career, his own money. Not everyone is out to get us. Some people just love me for me." I wanted desperately to believe that. But that watch kept bothering me. And the BMW I had glimpsed in the driveway, a current year model that started at $80,000, and the way he had asked about succession planning after 30 minutes. That night alone in my study, I searched online Ryan Westbrook Orthopedic Surgeon, Seattle. The results showed Dr. Ryan Westbrook, MD Orthopedic Surgery, Riverside Medical Center. Board certified. Good reviews. On the surface, everything looked exemplary. But I had not built a $900 million company by accepting surface appearances. I made a note to myself. Casual inquiry, nothing invasive, just enough to ease my mind. I wanted to trust my daughter's judgment, but I could not ignore what I had seen. The calculating eyes, the financial questions, the way he had made Vanessa doubt herself. So I would watch and wait and hope I was wrong. 3 months later, Vanessa called me crying. Ryan had proposed on a beach at sunset, and she had said yes. I congratulated her, my heart sinking like a stone, because by then I had learned something that confirmed my worst fears about who Ryan Westbrook truly was. The name Westbrook haunted me. For 3 weeks after Vanessa's engagement, I told myself it was coincidence. But at 3 in the morning on a Tuesday, lying awake in the bed I had once shared with Catherine, I stopped pretending. I went downstairs to my study, opened my laptop, and typed what I should have searched months ago: Theodore Westbrook's son. The results loaded in seconds. Society page photographs, business journal mentions, LinkedIn profiles. And there in a photo from a 2019 hospital fundraiser stood Ryan Westbrook between his parents. Theodore looked older than I remembered, his hair silver instead of dark, but his eyes held the same cold calculation I had seen across conference tables in 2004. Beside him stood Sharon in pearls, and between them, Ryan in a tuxedo wearing that perfect smile I had seen in my study 3 months ago. My hands began to shake. Ryan had not stumbled into Vanessa's life at a hospital fundraiser. He had found her, targeted her. The son finishing what the father had started. 20 years ago, Theodore Westbrook and I had competed for a contract with the Port of Seattle. $200 million over 10 years. When I won the bid, Theodore had not accepted defeat gracefully. Within 3 months, my ships were being targeted. A Coast Guard raid based on an anonymous tip, a smear campaign in the maritime trade press, frivolous lawsuits that cost hundreds of thousands to defend. I had survived. Barely. Catherine had stood beside me through the worst of it. We had rebuilt slowly, carefully, and by the time Theodore lost a major contract in 2014, I had surpassed him. But I had never forgotten, and apparently neither had Theodore. The question that kept me awake was simple. Did Ryan know who I was when he met Vanessa? Or had he discovered it later and decided to continue anyway? Either answer was damning. 2 weeks later, I had dinner with Vanessa and Ryan at their apartment in Capitol Hill. Halfway through dinner, Ryan steered the conversation toward finances. Vanessa and I were talking about estate planning, making sure we understand each other's financial situations before the wedding. Vanessa looked uncomfortable. "Dad, we don't have to talk about this now. Actually, it's responsible," Ryan continued. "My financial advisor recommended we get clarity on inheritance structures, tax implications. Harrigan Maritime revenue succession plans. Vanessa mentioned you haven't formalized those arrangements." I set down my wine glass. "My estate planning is between me and my lawyers until I decide otherwise." Ryan's smile never wavered, but something flickered in his eyes. Frustration. Calculation. After dinner on the drive home, I called Vanessa. "Is Ryan always that interested in your inheritance?" Silence on the line. Then, "Dad, don't start." "I'm not starting anything. I'm asking a question. He's being responsible. That's a good thing." "Is it most men wait longer than 3 months of engagement before asking detailed questions about estate planning? And Dad, please, I love him. Can you just be happy for me?" "I'm trying to be happy for you. I'm also trying to be careful." Careful or controlling, that stung. Catherine had asked me the same question once. Over the next few weeks, I watched the pattern emerge. Vanessa stopped mentioning Lauren. When I asked about her best friend, Vanessa's answer was vague. "She's busy. We don't see each other as much." "Why not?" "Ryan thinks Lauren is kind of negative about our relationship. She doesn't understand him. It was textbook isolation. Separate the target from her support system. Make her dependent on you for social connection, emotional validation, decision-making." The final confirmation came in early November, when Sharon Westbrook invited me to dinner at their estate. The house was old money architecture trying to compensate for new money and security. Too much marble, too many European antiques. Theodore was in the library when I arrived, standing with a bourbon in his hand. When he turned and saw me, recognition flashed across his face, followed quickly by something else. Not quite fear, but close. Why, Stanley Harrigan. He said my name like he was tasting something unpleasant. I didn't realize you were Vanessa's father, and I didn't realize Ryan was your son. We stood there, two men with 20 years of history between us, pretending to be civilized for the sake of our children. Dinner was excruciating. Sharon made condescending remarks about my business. Melissa, Ryan's sister, drank too much and made cutting comments about Vanessa's nursing salary. And through it all, Ryan watched me with those calculating eyes, and I understood. He knew exactly who I was. He had known from the beginning. This relationship was not love. It was strategy. Theodore's son courting Stanley's daughter. The ultimate business play. When I got home that night, I did not hesitate. I called Henry Walsh, a private investigator recommended by my maritime attorney. We met the next morning at a coffee shop downtown. I need to know everything about Ryan Westbrook, personal and professional. Henry pulled out a notepad. What kind of everything? His finances, his relationships, his medical practice, his parking tickets, everything. Looking for anything specific. I'm looking for the truth. Whether it's good or bad, I need to know what kind of man is marrying my daughter. Henry studied me for a moment. And if what I find is bad, then I stop the wedding. That'll cost you your relationship with your daughter. Well, maybe, but she'll be alive and safe. That's more important. He closed his notepad. The engagement party is in 6 weeks. Yes, that's not much time. It's what we have. 4 days later, my phone rang at 7 in the morning. Henry's voice was tight. Mr. Harrigan, we need to meet in person. What I found? You're going to want to sit down for this. We met at his office that evening. He spread files across his desk, medical records with names, redacted financial documents, photographs of Ryan with patients. The information he had gathered in 96 hours was damning. Ryan Westbrook was not just a gold digger. He was not just the son of a man who had tried to destroy me. He was something far worse. He was a predator with a medical license, and my daughter was his next target. Henry Walsh spread 12 manila folders across my desk. Each one represented a piece of Ryan Westbrook's carefully constructed facade now crumbling under scrutiny. Henry stood across from me, his expression grim. "Where do you want me to start?" he asked. The debt. The medical cases. Or the fact that his father Theodore has been laundering money through his son for 5 years. I stared at the folders, my hands flat on the mahogany desk, to keep them from shaking. Each folder represented a person hurt, a life damaged, a pattern of deliberate harm. "Start with the victims," I said. Henry picked up the first folder. Eleanor Peterson. He opened it, and a photograph slid across the desk. An elderly woman with silver hair and kind eyes standing in a garden surrounded by roses. Eleanor Peterson, 72 years old, retired elementary school teacher. Net worth approximately $3.8 million. She needed a hip replacement in March of 2021. Ryan told her that for an additional cash payment of $45,000, he could get her into surgery within 2 weeks instead of 6. Henry pulled out a medical document. 2 weeks after surgery, Eleanor developed a severe infection. Emergency surgery revealed a retained surgical sponge left inside her body during the original procedure. My stomach turned. Accident. No. Henry pulled out an expert analysis. Dr. Patricia Vance, a forensic surgical specialist, reviewed the operative notes. The surgical count sheets show all sponges were accounted for before Ryan closed the incision, which means the sponge was placed after the final count. Deliberately. Why would he do that? Because complications mean additional surgeries. Additional surgeries mean additional billing. Over the next 6 months, Eleanor had 3 more procedures. Ryan billed insurance $135,000. Total extracted from Eleanor Peterson $180,000. She can no longer walk without a cane. She has chronic pain. She lost her independence. He pulled out a small audio recorder and pressed play. An elderly woman's voice filled my study, wavering but clear. I trusted Dr. Westbrook. He seemed so caring, so professional. Now I can't walk without pain. I'll never garden again. The recording clicked off. I sat in silence, rage building in my chest. How many others? Confirmed 2, suspected 4 more, but they settled with confidentiality agreements. Henry opened the second folder. Thomas Webster. Another photograph, this one of a man in his late 60s standing beside a vintage car. Thomas Webster, 68, retired mechanical engineer, net worth $5.2 million. He had a herniated disc at L5 to S1. Ryan operated in June of 2023, but he didn't operate on L5 to S1. He operated on L4 to L5, the wrong level. I leaned forward. How does a surgeon operate on the wrong level? He doesn't, not by accident. Dr. Vance reviewed this case too. Her conclusion, no competent surgeon makes this error. The imaging was clear. Ryan deliberately operated on the wrong disc, so the original problem remained. Thomas needed a revision surgery that caused permanent nerve damage. Total extracted from Thomas Webster $195,000. Another audio recording. A man's voice heavy with exhaustion and anger. The chart said L5 to S1. The MRI was clear as day. He operated on L4 to L5. The OR nurse told my wife later quietly that she had seen the chart. He knew it was the wrong level, and he did it anyway. I closed my eyes. 2 victims, 2 deliberate acts of harm. 2 lives permanently damaged because Ryan Westbrook needed money. Henry opened a third folder stuffed with bank statements. Ryan Westbrook is drowning. Total debt $520,000. Medical school loans $180,000. Failed investments $220,000. Credit cards $120,000. He pulled out a spreadsheet. Monthly obligations $28,000. His income after taxes nets to about $19,000 a month. He's $9,000 in the hole every month. He's been sustaining this lifestyle by taking cash payments from patients and creating complications that generate insurance billing. Henry pulled out another document. And here's where Theodore comes in. In 2020, Ryan received a loan of $220,000 from Westbrook Properties Investment Fund. 0 interest. No repayment schedule. That's not a loan. That's money laundering. How Vanessa has a trust fund, I said quietly. $65 million. She doesn't know about it yet. She was supposed to learn on her 30th birthday or upon marriage. And Ryan knows. He must. He researched me before he ever met her. This wasn't accidental, Henry. He targeted her. Henry closed the folders carefully. Mr. Harrigan, with this evidence, the FBI will investigate. But these things take time. We're talking months, maybe years. The engagement party is in 4 weeks. I know. But if Vanessa marries him before the FBI acts, he'll have access to her trust fund. We can't wait. Henry leaned forward. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about a test, I said. A public test at the engagement party where Ryan reveals his character in front of 500 witnesses. I disguise myself as a homeless veteran. I sit outside the hotel before the party. I ask Ryan for help. I see what he does when he thinks no one important is watching. Henry's eyes widened slightly. That's manipulative. So is deliberately harming patients for money. So is targeting my daughter for her inheritance. If Ryan passes the test, if he shows kindness, I reveal myself and apologize. If he fails, if he shows cruelty, I reveal myself and show everyone who he really is. Then I present this evidence, and the FBI makes their arrests. Henry was silent for a long moment. You'll need a good lawyer and a very good makeup artist. I met his gaze. Can you arrange that? I can. He paused. Mr. Harrigan, if you're wrong, you'll destroy your relationship with your daughter. I'm not wrong. You've proven that. But you're right that I'll probably destroy my relationship with her anyway. She'll see this as betrayal. But in 18 months, when Ryan declares bankruptcy and tries to access her trust fund, or in 5 years when he's arrested for harming another patient, she'll understand. She might not forgive me, but she'll be alive and safe. That's more important than being loved. Henry gathered the folders slowly. I'll contact the FBI, and I'll find you the best theatrical makeup artist in Seattle. After he left, I sat alone in my study for a long time, looking at Catherine's photograph on my desk. 4 weeks until the engagement party. 4 weeks before I either saved my daughter or lost her forever. Vanessa called me on a Sunday afternoon, her voice bright with joy. The kind of pure, unguarded happiness I had not heard from her since before Catherine died. I was in my study, Henry's investigation folders, still spread across the mahogany surface. Eleanor Peterson's photograph stared up at me, a grandmother who would never walk without pain again. Dad Ryan proposed, we're engaged. I forced enthusiasm into my voice, my eyes still on Eleanor's face. Congratulations, sweetheart. Tell me everything. She described the beach at sunset, the photographer who had appeared as if by chance. Private beach in the San Juan Islands, accessible only by boat. Ryan had rented it for the evening. The ring was 2 carats, platinum setting, flawless clarity. I made a mental note. $35,000 minimum. Add that to Ryan's credit card debt. He got down on one knee and said I was everything he'd ever wanted. And then he said something so sweet. He said, I knew the moment I learned your father owned Harrigan Maritime that you came from good people. My hand tightened on the phone. Learned, not met. As in researched. As in investigated before the first date. That's lovely, honey. When did you tell him about Harrigan Maritime? Oh, I don't know. Early on, I think. Why? Just curious. So tell me about the ring. Every word confirmed what Henry had uncovered. Ryan Westbrook had targeted my daughter with the precision of a military operation. And Dad, he wants the engagement party at the Harborview Grand. Isn't that fancy? An opportunity. A gift handed to me. I know the owner. Let me arrange it. My gift to you both. Really, Dad, that's so generous. After we hung up, I called Arthur Sullivan, who managed the Harborview Grand, a boutique hotel I had purchased 15 years ago as an investment property. Most people did not know I owned it. Arthur, I need to host an event. An engagement party for my daughter. April 17th. 500 capacity. Of course, Mr. Harrigan, the Grand Ballroom. Arthur, I need you to understand something. This event needs to look like my daughter and her fiancé booked it normally, not like I own the hotel. Silence on the line. Then, sir, may I ask why? Because I'm going to test someone's character, in public, with witnesses. And I need everything to be exactly as I specify. We spent an hour on logistics, the date, the ballroom setup with AV equipment for a presentation I would deliver, security coordination with David Torres, and FBI positioning. FBD, sir. There will be arrests made that night, but not until after I've presented evidence. Next, I called David Torres, former Marine Corps, someone I trusted with difficult situations. I explained what I needed. His first response was a long silence. Sir, are you sure about this? No, but I'm certain it's necessary. This could go very wrong. I know. Will you help me anyway? Yes, sir. But I want to be on record that I think there are less explosive ways to handle this. Over the following weeks, I watched Ryan take control of the engagement party planning. Vanessa had wanted a small garden party, intimate and warm with close friends and family. Within a week, the guest list had grown to 200. Then 300. Sharon Westbrook added another 150 essential contacts. When Vanessa mentioned it to me over coffee, her smile was strained. It's getting so big. I wanted something cozy. It's your day, honey. You can say no. Ryan says it's important for his career. Networking, making impressions. I'm trying to be supportive. Red flag. Loud and clear. Vanessa prioritizing Ryan's professional needs over her own desires for her own engagement party. What about Lauren? Is she coming? Vanessa hesitated. Ryan thinks maybe it should just be family and his professional circle. Lauren is family. She'll be there. That evening, my phone rang. Lauren Bennett. She had never called me directly before. Mr. Harrigan, I'm worried about Vanessa. She's canceled girls' night 4 times in the past 2 months. She doesn't answer texts promptly anymore. When she does see me, she seems smaller somehow, like she's taking up less space. Classic coercive control. Isolate the target from her support system. And Ryan, he's not mean. He's just everywhere. Deciding things. Vanessa used to be so independent. Now she checks with him before making plans. I'm handling it, Lauren, but I need you at the engagement party. Vanessa needs you there. Is something going to happen? I'm going to make sure Vanessa sees the truth. That's all I can tell you right now. 1 week before the party, I met Vanessa for coffee. She looked radiant but exhausted, the kind of tired that comes from constant emotional labor. Are you happy? I asked. She blinked. Of course I am. Why would you ask that? You look stressed. Wedding planning is stressful, Dad. But Ryan handles most of it. He's so organized. That's what worries me. Her expression shifted, defensive walls going up. Please don't start. Not everyone is out to get me. I just want you to be happy. That's all I've ever wanted. But I could not tell her what I knew. Because she would not believe me. She would defend him, make excuses, convince herself I was being paranoid and controlling. That night alone in my study with Catherine's photograph on the desk, I made a vow. I'm about to do something that might make her hate me. But if I do nothing, I'll lose her forever to a man who will hurt her. In 4 days, 500 people will see Ryan Westbrook for who he really is. On the morning of April 17th, I woke at 5. My phone buzzed. A text from Henry F.B. I confirmed. Agents in position by 6 p.m. Be careful. I walked to my closet and looked at the costume hanging there. The faded olive jacket with Jenkins on the name tape. The worn jeans. The cardboard sign, homeless vet, anything helps, God bless. In 12 hours, I would sit on a cold sidewalk and ask my daughter's fiancé for help. I would see what he did when he thought no one important was watching. Either I would save Vanessa's life, or I would destroy our relationship. There was no middle ground. 4 weeks before the party, I sat across from Patricia O'Neill in her Capitol Hill studio and realized I was about to ask a stranger to help me destroy my daughter's life. Or save it, I still wasn't sure which. Patricia's workspace looked like a theater's backstage had collided with a crime scene. Prosthetic noses hung from fishing line. Wigs perched on mannequin heads. Jars of stage blood-lined shelves next to palettes of bruise-colored makeup. She'd done effects for 3 Coen Brothers films and a dozen Seattle rep productions. Henry had vouched for her discretion. Mr. Harrigan, she said, studying my face with clinical detachment. Henry says you need to disappear in plain sight. What are we actually doing here? I'd rehearsed this. I need to look homeless. Not costume party homeless. The real thing. Convincing enough to fool my daughter from 3 feet away. Her eyebrows rose. That's specific. And concerning. It's for her protection. That's what they all say. She folded her arms. I don't do work that hurts people. So before we go further, what's this really about? I liked her immediately. My daughter is engaged to a man I believe is dangerous. I've spent 10 weeks and $150,000 investigating him. I have evidence, but she won't believe me unless she sees his character with her own eyes. So I'm going to give her a test. A very public one. Patricia was quiet for a long moment. You're asking me to weaponize empathy. I'm asking you to help me reveal the truth. And if you're wrong, if this man passes your test and you've humiliated your daughter for nothing, the question hit like a fist to the sternum. Then I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to her. If she lets me. Patricia uncrossed her arms. 3 conditions. 1, I meet this detective and review whatever evidence you've got. 2, you pay me whether you go through with it or not. 3, if at any point I think this is going to get someone hurt, I walk. Clear. Clear. Over the next 2 weeks, Patricia transformed me 3 times. Each session lasted 4 hours. The foundation came first, a grayish undertone that suggested malnutrition and too many nights outdoors. Then came the dirt, layered and textured, the ground-in grime that accumulates when showers are a weekly luxury. She added broken capillaries to my nose and cheeks. The beard was my own grown out, and then sculpted, patchy, uneven, shot through with gray. Contact lenses turned my eyes a cloudy hazel, vague and unfocused. The wardrobe came last. Jeans worn soft and thin at the knees, a flannel shirt with one missing button, and a Vietnam veteran's jacket purchased from a consignment shop and carefully distressed. Authenticity is in the details, Patricia explained. People don't consciously register them, but they feel wrong if they're missing. She was right. By the 3rd session, when I looked in the mirror, I didn't see Stanley Harrigan. I saw the man I'd been 35 years earlier. I was 19 when my father died. Heart attack, sudden and clean. Within 6 months, I'd lost the house. Lost the small freight company my father had built from nothing. I spent 8 months homeless in Seattle. 3 months in shelters, 5 on the street. I slept under the Alaskan Way viaduct. I learned which gas stations let you use the bathroom without buying anything, and which churches served breakfast on Thursdays. I learned that invisible was a skill you could cultivate, and that most people were happy to let you. I met Catherine in 1995, 6 years after I'd clawed my way back. On our 3rd date, I told her about those 8 months. She didn't flinch. She said, "That's the foundation. Everything else is built on, isn't it?" She was right. Every risk I took, every deal I closed, every dollar I saved it, was all built on the terror of going back to that viaduct. On the memory of being looked through, not at. And now I was going back on purpose. For Vanessa. Because Ryan Westbrook needed to look at someone he considered beneath him and reveal what lived in the hollow of his character. I just hoped my daughter would forgive me for showing her. "This is the evidence package," Henry said, sliding a USB drive across my desk. "Medical records, financial statements, patient testimony. Everything authenticated and admissible." Arthur Sullivan leaned against my office doorway. "The ballroom AV is yours from 6 to 11. David Torres is coordinating security. 8 FBI agents will pose as guests. And if someone recognizes you outside," Arthur added. They won't," I said. "Patricia's work is that good. And even if they do, I'm a homeless vet asking for help. The test happens inside the ballroom or not at all." Still, the ethics gnawed at me. Late at night, staring at the ceiling, I'd ask Catherine's memory, "Am I protecting Vanessa or punishing Ryan?" But every time I circled back to the evidence, Eleanor Peterson's infections, Thomas Webster's nerve damage, the pattern of harm for profit. I knew this wasn't about Theodore. Ryan Westbrook was dangerous. Left unchecked, he would hurt Vanessa. The test wasn't cruel. It was a kindness. A hard one, the kind that burns going down, but a kindness nonetheless. At least that's what I told myself. The dress rehearsal happened 3 days before the party. Full costume, full makeup, 2 hours in character wandering Pike Place Market, while Henry followed at a distance. Nobody looked at me. Not once. A woman stepped around me without breaking stride. A teenager made eye contact, then flinched away. A couple argued about dinner reservations as if I were a parking meter present, but not worth acknowledging. Invisible. The night before the party, I stood in my study holding Catherine's photo. I'm about to do something that might make Vanessa hate me, I whispered. If I'm wrong, I'll lose her. But Catherine had also said, protect the people you love even when it costs you. Especially when it costs you. I set down the photo, texted Patricia 2 p.m. tomorrow. Let's do this. Her reply came instantly. See you then. And Stanley. I hope you're right. So did I. April 17th, 2024. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I arrived at Patricia's studio. By 5:30, the transformation was complete. By 5:45, I was standing outside the Harborview Grand, in a soft rain, invisible and terrified. At 7:30 tonight, I would walk into that ballroom. 500 people would watch. And we would all find out what it means to be human. 7 days before the party, I pulled up to the Westbrook estate and understood with perfect clarity why Ryan had chosen my daughter. The mansion sat on 3 acres of waterfront perfection in Marina Heights, a fortress of old money and older grudges. I'd been invited to dinner. So we can get to know each other before the engagement party, Sharon had said in a voice like frosted glass. As I stopped at the gate, I wondered if Theodore remembered that 20 years ago he'd celebrated Christmas in a house I'd been forced to sell. The gate opened. I drove through jaw tight, knowing that somewhere inside that sprawling colonial estate, the man who'd nearly destroyed me was waiting. And with him, the son trying to finish the job. Sharon met me at the door. 63 blonde, gone silver in that expensive way, dressed in cream silk. You must be Stanley, she said, extending a hand that felt like holding a bird skeleton. How interesting. Do come in. Interesting. The way you describe a stain on expensive upholstery. She insisted on a tour. The Chagall is from a Sotheby's auction, she said, gesturing to a painting in the foyer. An absolute steal at only $2.3 million. I wasn't impressed. I was cataloging. Wealth displayed like a weapon. Art mentioned by price, not beauty. Every surface polished to remind visitors they didn't belong. Melissa Ryan's older sister was on her second glass of wine by 6:45. Divorced Ryan had mentioned once. I could see why. Her smile had the sharpness of broken glass. Theodore Westbrook entered the dining room at 7 o'clock exactly and took his place at the head of the table like a king assuming a throne. 67 years old, silver hair, tailored suit, the kind of confidence that comes from never hearing the word no. He'd aged well, money does that. But there was a hardness around his eyes, a cruelty in the set of his mouth. He didn't look at me, not at first. Then he turned to me. So, Stanley, Harrigan Maritime. How many vessels are you operating now? 47, I said. His fork paused mid-air. 47, that's considerable. And then it clicked. I watched it happen. The pause. The narrowing of eyes. Stanley Harrigan. He set down his fork carefully. The port contract. 2004. I met his gaze and didn't blink. That's right. The silence stretched. Ryan's posture shifted alert. Theodore recovered smoothly. We were competitors. A long time ago. Stanley didn't win. When I lost that contract, I said evenly. But I built something better. His jaw tightened. So it seems. Vanessa looked between us, frowning. I didn't know you knew Dad, Mr. Westbrook. It wasn't worth mentioning, Theodore said. Translation, I crushed him, and he should have stayed crushed. I smiled. Ancient history, but we both knew it wasn't. The conversation shifted. Sharon took over. Vanessa, darling, about the wedding. I've reserved the Four Seasons. It seats 400 comfortably. Vanessa blinked. Actually, Ryan and I were thinking something smaller. Nonsense. The Westbrook family has certain standards. People expect a level of refinement. Her eyes flicked to me. The message was clear. Your world doesn't meet our standards. Melissa leaned forward, wine sloshing slightly. Will your friends be polished? Ryan's colleagues are very particular. Vanessa stiffened. My friends are wonderful. I'm sure they're nice. Melissa said the word dripping with condescension. But nice and refined are different things, aren't they? I watched Vanessa shrink just a little. She was trying to bridge two worlds, and the Westbrooks were setting fire to the bridge. Sharon turned to me. What did your wife do? She must be thrilled about the wedding. My wife died 6 years ago, I said. Sharon barely paused. Oh, how unfortunate. No apology, no sympathy. Just a slight adjustment like she'd mentioned bad weather. The server, a young Latina woman, refilled water glasses. Her hand trembled slightly. Oh, not that glass, Melissa snapped. The wine glass. Don't you understand English? The server apologized, reaching for the correct glass. Theodore sighed heavily. For God's sake, next time hire someone competent. The server's hand shook harder. I clenched my jaw, said nothing. Not yet, Vanessa whispered to the server as she passed. You're doing great. It was a small kindness. A moment of decency in a room full of cruelty. Ryan's response was immediate. Vanessa, don't coddle the staff. It undermines their training. Vanessa looked startled. I was just being nice. Nice isn't professional. Theodore nodded approvingly. Ryan understands business. I understood something else. Ryan hadn't developed this cruelty on his own. He'd been taught, raised in a house where kindness was weakness, where people were ranked by net worth, where anyone who served you was beneath you. Sharon smiled at me, cold as January. I hope Vanessa will adapt to our family's expectations. She's very sincere. Translation: Vanessa isn't sophisticated enough for us. As dessert arrived, Theodore circled back. Stanley, what's your succession plan? Who inherits Harrigan Maritime? I haven't finalized that. Surely, Vanessa, your only child. My assets are my business. Ryan and Vanessa will need to know these things. I set down my coffee cup carefully. When there's a marriage, I'll discuss it with my daughter. Not before. Theodore's eyes hardened. Ryan's jaw tightened. Message received. Stanley Harrigan was protecting his assets. The treasure chest had a lock. For the first time all evening, I saw genuine frustration flash across Ryan's face. Good. Vanessa and I left at 9:30. In the car, she exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for hours. Dad, I'm so sorry. They're awful. Not your fault, sweetheart. Ryan's not like them. He's different when it's just us. Is he? She turned defensive. Yes, he loves me. I kept my eyes on the road. I believe he loves something about you. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. I'm just tired. But I wasn't tired. I was calculating. When I got home, I called Henry. The Westbrooks, I said without preamble. I need to know if Theodore, Sharon, or Melissa have committed any crimes in the last 5 years. If Ryan learned his behavior from them, they're not innocent bystanders. Henry was quiet for a moment. You think this is bigger than just Ryan? I thought about the way Theodore had looked at me, the way Sharon had dismissed Vanessa, the way they'd treated the server like she was invisible. I think the Westbrook family is rotten from the top down, I said. And I'm going to expose all of it. April 17th dawned gray and cold, the kind of Pacific Northwest morning where the sky and the sound merge into one endless sheet of pewter. I woke at 6, Catherine's photo on the nightstand, the first thing I saw. Today, I told her, I either save our daughter or lose her forever. By 2 o'clock that afternoon, I was sitting in Patricia O'Neill's makeup chair, watching in the mirror as she began the process of transformation. Every brush stroke, every layer of adhesive and pigment carried me further from the man I'd become, and closer to the man I'd once been. Patricia met me at the door of her Capitol Hill studio, her expression calm but concerned. "Are you ready?" she asked. "No, I said, "but I'm certain," she nodded. "Then let's begin." The transformation would take 3.5 hours. She started with the base layer, a grayish undertone that aged my skin 2 decades in 20 minutes. Broken capillaries appeared along my nose and cheeks, roadmaps of hard winters and harder choices. Sun damage, liver spots, deep creases around my eyes and mouth. "You'll look 70, she said, stepping back to assess. "Maybe 75. The beard came next, applied in painstaking sections. Gray, patchy, untrimmed. She added a slight prosthetic to my nose, just enough to alter the shape. Contact lenses followed, clouding my hazel eyes to a vague, unfocused gray-blue. "Harold Jenkins," she murmured as she worked. "Born 1950. Served in Vietnam Marines 68 to 70. Honorable discharge. Fell on hard times after the mill closed in 92. 3 kids he hasn't seen in 15 years. You're giving him a whole life," I said. "He deserves one." Her hands paused. "My sister was homeless for 6 years. She died in 2015. Pneumonia because she couldn't afford a doctor. So yeah, Harold gets a life. And you're going to honor it." "Sure, I will," I promised. The clothes came from consignment shops and thrift stores, carefully chosen and distressed. Faded olive green Vietnam veteran's jacket with the name Jenkins stitched above the pocket. Torn jeans fraying at the knees. Boots with separated soles held together by duct tape. Dog tags, prop replicas stamped with Harold Jenkins's service years. Patricia rubbed dirt under my fingernails into the creases of my palms along my neck. She treated the clothes with a spray mixture, wood smoke, damp wool, the sour tang of old sweat. The scent hit me like a fist, bringing back memories of 1989, the underpass, sleeping on cardboard. The duffel bag was army surplus olive green and battered. Inside a threadbare blanket, an empty water bottle, a dog-eared paperback, and a photo of a family I'd never see again. The cardboard sign, hand-lettered in black, Sharpie, homeless veteran. "Anything helps. God bless." A small American flag frayed at the edges. A plastic coffee cup stained and dented for collecting change. I stood in front of the full-length mirror. The man staring back wasn't Stanley Harrigan. He was 70-something, weathered by decades of loss. His eyes were clouded, his shoulders hunched, his hands trembled slightly, the mark of cold nights and colder futures. Patricia stood behind me, tears in her eyes. "My sister would be proud," she whispered. "You're reminding people we exist." "I'll honor Harold Jenkins," I said. "And your sister." She squeezed my shoulder. "Then go. And I hope to God you're right about this man." Henry picked me up in an unmarked van, dropping me at the employee entrance of the Harborview Grand. I walked around to the front duffel slung over one shoulder and took my position 15 feet from the main doors, my back against the limestone wall. My sign propped beside me. Invisible. David Torres appeared in his security uniform, positioning himself 20 feet away near the valet stand. Our eyes met briefly. His expression said, "I've got you." The first guests arrived. A couple in their 60s, expensive coats, diamond earrings catching the fading light. They walked past me without a glance. The husband steered his wife slightly away, a subtle correction in course. I was already invisible. Inside, Arthur was checking in guests. The ballroom was ready, AV system prepped for the evidence files Henry would present in 90 minutes. 487 RSVPs. More than 450 expected. An audience, witnesses. The doubts came sharp and insistent. What if I'm wrong? What if Ryan's just ambitious, awkward, not malicious? What if Vanessa never forgives me? Catherine's voice a memory. Trust your instincts. Stanley, you've always protected her. 12 more guests passed. 2 ignored me completely. One elderly woman made brief eye contact, then looked away embarrassed. A man in his 40s tossed a quarter into my cup without breaking stride. 25 cents. The value of a human being. Lauren Bennett arrived alone. She saw me, saw Harold, and paused. Her hand went to her purse. I shook my head, subtle. She frowned, confused, but walked inside. Vanessa's silver Civic pulled up. She stepped out alone, hurried toward the entrance, focused and excited. She didn't see me. Relief and heartbreak tangled together. Then the black BMW slid to the curb like a predator. The valet hurried over. Ryan Westbrook stepped out. Navy suit tailored easily $3,000. Italian leather shoes. Tag Heuer watch glinting on his wrist. Hair perfect. Smile confident. A $5,000 costume over $520,000 of debt. He adjusted his tie in the car window's reflection, pulled out his phone briefly, then walked toward the entrance. His path would take him within 8 feet of me. I raised my sign higher. Our eyes met. For a fraction of a second, Ryan's gaze touched mine, then slid past, dismissive. No recognition. The disguise held. He was 3 steps past me when I spoke. "Spare change, sir." My voice came out hoarse. Harold's voice. "Veteran here." Ryan stopped, turned, looked down at me. His expression wasn't pity. It was annoyance. Ryan Westbrook stared down at me, one hand already on the hotel door, his face a mask of irritation. His jaw tightened. His eyes went cold. I tightened my grip on the cardboard sign and waited. The test had begun. Ryan Westbrook stood 5 feet away, his expensive shoes inches from my cardboard sign. The hotel entrance glowed behind him, warm light music, laughter, while I sat in shadow, a ghost in a tattered veteran's jacket. "Just $1, sir." I repeated, my voice roughened to sound desperate. "Anything helps." Ryan's eyes moved from my face to the sign to the coffee cup. His expression wasn't pity. It wasn't even indifference. It was disgust. I already said no. He said, voice low and cold. "Now back off before I call the cops. You're making my fiancée uncomfortable." Vanessa wasn't even there yet, but he was already using her as a shield. "I'm not bothering anyone, sir," I said quietly. "Just sitting here. This is private property. You're trespassing." "Sidewalk's public, sir." His jaw tightened. "Don't lecture me about property rights." He pulled out his phone, the threat clear. "One call, and I'd be removed by force." I gestured weakly to the dog tags hanging around my neck. "I'm a veteran, sir. Vietnam, Marines, just fell on hard times." Ryan's gaze flicked to the tags and his lip curled. "Everyone claims to be a vet these days." The words hit like a slap. Not just dismissive, accusatory. As if I was lying about service, about sacrifice to scam a few dollars. Ryan turned toward the hotel entrance. I kept my voice soft. "God bless you anyway, sir." He stopped mid-step, turned back slowly. "What did you just say?" "God bless you, sir." His eyes went flat. "Keep your blessings. I don't need them from people like you." People like you. The phrase hung in the cold air, heavy with contempt. The hotel doors opened. Vanessa stepped out, her expression bright but slightly frazzled. The moment she saw Ryan standing over me, her face shifted. "Ryan, what's wrong?" Ryan's tone changed instantly, smoothing out like he'd flipped a switch. "Nothing, sweetheart. Just handling a situation." Vanessa looked at me, at Harold Jenkins, homeless veteran, and her face softened. She didn't see her father. The disguise held. But she saw a human being in need, and her instinct was immediate. She reached for her purse. "Do you need—" "Vanessa, don't." Ryan's voice was firm, not loud, but absolute. "But we talked about this. Enabling isn't helping. Remember," Vanessa frowned, confused. "We didn't talk about—" "Yes, we did. Last week. You said you wanted to understand how to actually make a difference, not just throw money at problems. He was gaslighting her in real time, rewriting a conversation that had never happened. Vanessa's certainty wavered. I guess. Ryan slipped an arm around her shoulders, steering her gently but firmly away from me. Come on. Your mom's friends are inside waiting. Vanessa glanced back at me, guilt and apology in her eyes. I'm sorry. She said the words, barely audible, then they were gone. I sat in the cold, heart pounding. She wanted to help. He stopped her. Pattern confirmed. 2 minutes later, Ryan emerged again, phone to his ear. He saw me still sitting there and his expression hardened. More guests were arriving now, glancing at me, then away, quickening their steps toward the warm entrance. Ryan ended his call and strode toward me, anger tightening his features. I thought I told you to leave. I'm not breaking any laws, sir. He stopped directly in front of me, close enough that I could see the tag Heuer on his wrist, $12,000. Close enough to smell his expensive cologne. Here, he said, pulling his wallet from his jacket. Buy some soap. He extracted a $5 bill, and then instead of handing it to me, he threw it. The bill fluttered down, landing on the wet pavement near my feet. And next time you want to beg, Ryan continued, his voice dripping with contempt. Try not smelling like you just crawled out of a dumpster. Have some self-respect. I stared at the $5 bill lying in a puddle. The humiliation wasn't the money. It was the delivery. Thrown. Like I was a dog. I didn't pick it up, Ryan noticed. What, not enough? That's the problem with people like you. Never satisfied. I kept my voice steady. I have self-respect, sir. That's why I'm not picking it up. Ryan's face darkened. You'd rather sit here begging than take money I'm offering. You didn't offer, sir. You threw it like I was a dog. A small crowd had gathered, 3, maybe 4 early guests, standing at a distance but close enough to hear. Their discomfort was visible. One woman whispered to her companion. Ryan became aware of the audience. He lowered his voice, but the venom remained. Get this person off the property, he snapped at a valet. I don't care if you have to drag him. My mother's arriving in 5 minutes. He turned back to me, voice ice cold. Get security. Now. David Torres appeared in his security uniform, face neutral. Is there a problem here? Yes, Ryan said sharply. Remove this man from the premises. David turned to me, expression apologetic. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to move along. I nodded slowly, gathering my belongings. The duffel bag, the sign, the flag. Ryan's $5 bill still lying untouched on the pavement. Make sure he doesn't come back, Ryan said to David. Ryan gave me one last look, not of pity, not of guilt, just satisfaction that an inconvenience was being removed, and walked back into the hotel. David helped me to my feet. As we walked around the building toward the employee entrance, he leaned close. You okay? Perfect, I whispered back. He showed exactly who he is. At the employee entrance, Agent Castellano was waiting. We have everything, he said. Audio, video, multiple witnesses. Good, I said, peeling off the veteran's jacket. 1 hour and 30 minutes. Then this all comes out. Walking down the employee corridor toward the room where Patricia waited with makeup remover and a fresh suit, I could still smell the wet pavement on my clothes. I could still see the $5 bill lying in the puddle, Ryan's contempt crystallized in a single gesture. In 90 minutes, I would stand before 500 people and reveal what they'd just witnessed outside. Then came the medical malpractice, the financial crimes, the FBI arrests. I thought of Vanessa's face when she'd looked back at me, the beggar she didn't recognize. I'm sorry, she'd said. Soon she'd know exactly who she was apologizing to. And she'd understand why I did this. At least I hoped she would. I watched from the employee entrance window as more guests arrived at the Harborview Grand. I was no longer the beggar. David had removed me, but the test wasn't over. For the next 17 minutes, while Patricia stripped away Harold Jenkins and prepared me to reappear as Stanley Harrigan, other guests would walk past the exact spot where I'd sat. Some would look for me, some would ask questions, and some would reveal their own characters. David had positioned a discreet security camera at the entrance after my removal. Everything was still being recorded. Patricia's temporary workspace was tucked in the hotel's service corridor, a small room normally used for storage. She worked quickly, applying solvent to the adhesive holding Harold's beard in place. "How did it go?" she asked quietly. "Exactly as I feared," I said, watching the entrance through the narrow window. "He was cruel." David's voice crackled over the radio. "More guests arriving. Recording still active." Through the window, I watched a woman in her early 50s step out of a silver Lexus. Dr. Elizabeth Monroe, I recognized her from the guest list. Cardiologist. Colleague of Ryan's, though not close. She paused at the entrance, looking at the empty spot where I'd been sitting. Her eyes swept the area before settling on the valet. "Excuse me," she said. "There was a veteran here earlier. Where did he go?" The valet shifted uncomfortably. "Security removed him, ma'am," guests complained. Monroe frowned. "Removed him." He wasn't bothering anyone. She noticed the coffee cup I'd left behind lying on its side near the wall. The $5 bill Ryan had thrown was still there, half soaked in a puddle. Monroe bent down and picked it up, her expression darkening. "Did someone throw money at him?" The valet didn't meet her eyes. "I didn't see, ma'am." Which guest complained? "Did the groom, Mr. Westbrook?" Monroe straightened the wet bill still in her hand. "The groom kicked a homeless veteran off his own engagement party." She pulled out her phone and took a photo of the empty spot, the overturned cup, the wet pavement, evidence of an absence. From my window, Patricia working on the other side of my face, I felt something loosen in my chest. "She cared," I said quietly. A stranger cared more than my daughter's fiancé. 4 minutes later, a black town car pulled up, and Sharon Westbrook emerged, followed by Melissa. Sharon wore cream silk and diamonds. Melissa was already drinking from a silver flask. Sharon's gaze landed on the coffee cup. She made a sound of disgust. "My God, who left this trash here?" She kicked the cup with her Louboutin heel, sending it skittering across the pavement. The few remaining coins spilled out, clinking against the stone. Melissa took another sip from her flask. "There was some homeless guy here earlier. Ryan had security remove him." "Thank God," Sharon said. "Can you imagine our guests having to walk past that?" "Ryan said he was aggressive, demanding money from everyone." Sharon's lip curled. "They're always aggressive. That's why I never give to those people. It only encourages them." "Exactly," Melissa agreed. "If they wanted money, they'd get jobs." Sharon laughed sharp and cold. "Maybe he should apply at McDonald's. They wouldn't hire him. No work ethic." Sharon paused at the door and turned back to the valet. "Make sure no more undesirables approach the entrance tonight." At the window, Patricia was removing the contact lenses from my eyes. "Ryan learned his cruelty from her," I said. Patricia's voice was tight. "I wish I hadn't heard that. I'm going to make sure 500 people hear worse." When I opened my eyes again, Ryan was stepping back outside. He saw Dr. Monroe lingering near the entrance, her expression troubled, still looking for the veteran who'd vanished. "Can I help you?" Ryan asked, his tone smooth. Monroe turned. "I'm looking for the veteran who was here earlier. He's gone. Security removed him." "What? He was harassing guests." Monroe's skepticism was immediate. "I find that hard to believe." Ryan's smile tightened. "I understand your concern, but we have to prioritize the safety and comfort of our guests." He was the one who needed safety and comfort. Ryan's tone became patronizing. "Ma'am, I appreciate your compassion, but people like that, they're not always what they seem. People like what? Homeless, addicts. They're not trustworthy." He was a Vietnam veteran. Ryan glanced toward the entrance, then made a mistake. Stop. This is exactly what they want bleeding hearts like you. You're a nurse, you should know better. Monroe stared at him. I'm not Vanessa, and I'm a cardiologist. Ryan's face went white. I'm sorry, you thought I was someone you could manipulate. She walked past him into the hotel, her disgust radiating. Patricia was applying cleanser to my face, now wiping away the last traces of weathering and grime. He just keeps digging, she murmured. Good, I said. Let him dig. 2 minutes later, Lauren Bennett stepped outside looking for Vanessa. She saw David Torres and approached him. Excuse me, what happened to the man who was sitting here? David kept his expression neutral. He was asked to leave, ma'am. By whom? Mr. Westbrook. Lauren's face hardened. Of course he did. He's marrying my best friend. And I've been worried about him for months, because he's exactly the kind of person who would kick a homeless veteran off his own engagement party. She walked back inside, her worry now a visible weight. Patricia handed me a mirror. The beggar was gone. In his place was Stanley Harrigan, clean-shaven, hair combed, wearing a navy suit. You look like yourself, she said. I nodded, but I didn't feel like myself. I felt like a man who'd just watched humanity divide itself into two groups, those who saw people and those who saw obstacles. Ryan, Sharon, and Melissa belonged to the second group. Dr. Monroe and Lauren belonged to the first. And Vanessa was caught between, pulled toward cruelty by a man she loved. At 7:23 tonight, I would walk into that ballroom and force her to choose. The transformation was complete. The test was over. Now came the reckoning. By 6:50 that evening, I stood before Patricia's mirror, no longer the beggar, but not quite Stanley Harrigan either. I was caught between identities, the man who'd sat on cold concrete begging for a scrap of human decency, and the man about to walk into a ballroom of 487 people and destroy the evening they'd come to celebrate. Patricia adjusted my tie, her touch gentle. You know there's no going back after this. I met her eyes in the mirror. I know. By 6:45, the makeup was gone. Patricia had worked with swift precision, removing every trace of Harold Jenkins, the weathering, the broken capillaries, the age spots that had added 2 decades to my face. The contrast was stark. Beggar to billionaire in 45 minutes. At 6:50, she handed me a razor. I shaved myself, the familiar ritual grounding me. Patricia styled my hair, silver distinguished the cut, expensive enough to look effortless. She cleaned under my fingernails, removing the last traces of dirt we'd so carefully applied. My hands looked like they belonged to someone who'd never missed a meal, never slept on cardboard, never wondered where the next dollar would come from. At 6:55, I dressed. Tom Ford suit navy, $4,000. Custom white shirt, champagne silk tie. Church's shoes, polished to a mirror shine. And finally, the watch. Patek Philippe, $85,000, an heirloom from Catherine. At 7, Patricia handed me a mirror for the final check. You look like a different person, she said. That's the point. But as I stared at my reflection, clean, groomed, wealthy, I thought about how I'd looked 30 minutes ago. Invisible. Disposable. At 7:05, Patricia pulled out the cardboard sign I'd held outside. Keep it, she said. Remember why you're doing this. I folded it carefully and slipped it into my briefcase. I won't forget. Her eyes glistened. My sister would be proud. I hope Vanessa will be, I said. Eventually, at 7:10, I met Henry in his makeshift coordination room, a hotel office Arthur had cleared for the night. The table was covered with evidence files and technology. You clean up well, he said, but there was no humor in it. Show me what we have. He spread the files across the table. 4 folders color-coded. Red Ryan Westbrook Financial. Bank statements showing $520,000 in debt. Credit card bills documenting lavish spending. Loan documents tracing laundered money from Theodore. And the prenup draft Henry had intercepted Ryan was demanding 50% of Vanessa's $65 million trust fund. Blue Ryan Westbrook medical malpractice. Eleanor Peterson's file was thick. Surgery records. Post-operative complications. Dr. Vance's expert analysis concluding the initial sponge retention was inconsistent with standard of care and suggests intentional negligence. Financial records showing Eleanor had paid $45,000 in cash. Then Ryan had billed insurance $135,000 for the complications he'd caused. Thomas Webster's file was worse. MRI images clearly showing the herniated disc at L5 to S1. Surgical notes documenting Ryan had operated on L4 to L5 instead. Nerve damage. Permanent disability. Cash payment $50,000. Insurance billings $195,000. Pattern analysis. Henry said, pointing to a chart. Wealthy elderly patients. Cash payments for priority. Manufactured complications. Insurance fraud. Over $375,000 misappropriated. Green Theodore Westbrook, 2004 crimes. The port contract documents. Wire transfers to Port of Seattle officials totaling $500,000. Coast Guard reports on the sabotage of my ships. And the confession letter from 2023 written by Theodore to a priest documenting ongoing harm. Yellow Westbrook family present. Sharon's suspected charity embezzlement. Melissa's minor real estate fraud. Financial connections showing money flowing from Theodore through Ryan. This is enough to convict him, Henry said. You sure you want to do this publicly? They need to see it, all of them. Vanessa needs witnesses. Henry handed me a USB drive. The presentation's loaded. Beggar test footage 3 minutes edited tight. Witness interviews with Dr. Monroe and Lauren both gave consent. Medical records, financial documents, charts, graphs. Timeline of crimes 2004 to present. I pocketed the USB. Good work. At 7:15, Agent Castellano entered. We're ready, he said. 8 agents in the ballroom posing as guests. 4 outside. When you present the evidence, I'll signal. We'll arrest Ryan Westbrook on-site medical malpractice, insurance fraud, elder abuse. If Theodore's present, we'll take him too. Castellano paused. Mr. Harrigan, this isn't exactly protocol. What you're doing to your daughter. I hope it's worth it. It's not about worth, I said. It's necessity. At 7:18, Arthur Sullivan appeared. Ballroom status, 487 guests arrived. Cocktail hours underway. Dinner service starts at 7:45. Toasts are scheduled for 8, Ryan's family first, then you at 8:15. I'll present during my toast. AV system's ready. The USB is loaded. At 7:20, I stood alone in the service corridor. I pulled Catherine's photo from my pocket. I'm about to hurt our daughter to save her, I whispered. I could hear her voice, a memory so vivid it felt real. Love isn't always gentle, Stanley. Sometimes it has to be fierce. I checked my watch. 7:22. David Torres appeared at the end of the corridor. Ready, sir. No, I said, but it's time. We walked together, the sounds of the party growing louder with each step. Laughter, music, the clinking of champagne glasses, 500 of them raised in celebration. We stopped outside the ballroom. Through the small window, I could see inside. Chandeliers casting golden light. Vanessa in a white dress, laughing radiant. Ryan's arm around her, confident, possessive. This was the last moment she'd be happy. After this, everything would change. Last chance to back out, David said quietly. I looked at him. Open the door. The ballroom doors swung open, and sound flooded around me, 500 voices blending into a wall of celebration. I stepped inside. The chandeliers blazed. The jazz trio played. And there, at the center of it all, Vanessa and Ryan stood surrounded by guests offering congratulations. Vanessa saw me first. Her face lit up. Dad, she called, waving me over. Ryan turned. His expression shifted from joy to something else, confusion, maybe concern. But he didn't know yet. No one did. That the homeless veteran they'd ignored, dismissed, and mocked for 30 minutes was standing in their ballroom in a $4,000 suit. That in 38 minutes I would stand at that microphone and show them the video of their cruelty. That their engagement party was about to become a reckoning. But I knew. And as I walked toward my daughter, forcing a smile, I felt the weight of what I was about to do settle on my shoulders like a stone. I stepped into the grand ballroom, and for a moment I was stunned by the beauty of it all. Champagne silk tablecloths, crystal vases catching light from Art Deco chandeliers, the wall of windows overlooking Harborview Marina, where ships glided past in the twilight. This should have been a celebration of love. Instead, it was a stage for exposure. Vanessa rushed over, her white cocktail dress flowing. "Dad, I was worried you'd be late." She threw her arms around me, and I held her tight, knowing this might be the last time she'd willingly hug me. Over her shoulder, I saw Ryan watching us. His smile was perfect, but his eyes were calculating. He knew something was wrong. He just didn't know what. You look great," Vanessa said, pulling back. "New suit." "For the occasion." "Yeah, come meet some of Ryan's colleagues." "Actually, sweetheart, I need a moment." "Long day?" Concern flickered across her face. "You okay?" "Fine, just taking it in." "You look beautiful." She beamed. "I'm so happy, Dad. Last time she'll say that to me." "Oh, dinner's starting. You're at the head table next to Lauren." "I'll see you after dinner," Vanessa said. "We're doing toasts at 8. "I know. I'll be ready." I headed for the bar. Theodore appeared beside me before I'd finished ordering scotch. Silence stretched between us, tense as a wire. "Stanley," he said finally. "Didn't expect to see you here. It's my daughter's engagement party. Where else would I be? I meant, didn't expect you to come. After our dinner last week. You seemed uncomfortable with our family." "I was observing." His jaw tightened. "Observing what? Whether your family is good enough for my daughter." "And your conclusion?" I looked him in the eye. "I'll share that in my toast. At 8:15. What are you planning, Harrigan?" To tell the truth. Isn't that what people want at weddings? Honesty." His face darkened. "If you do anything to embarrass Ryan, you'll sabotage my business again. That was 20 years ago, and you never apologized. Or faced consequences. You can't prove anything." "Can't I?" Theodore leaned closer, voice dropping to a growl. "Stay away from my son. Your son is marrying my daughter. That's impossible." He stormed off. I watched him go, pulse steady. He's scared. Good. Sharon Westbrook materialized at my elbow, Melissa trailing behind, with a champagne flute already half empty. Stanley on Sharon said, "How quaint. You came, of course. I hope you don't mind we adjusted the seating." Theodore and I felt it best to have Ryan's professional colleagues at the head table. Translation. "You're not important enough," Melissa giggled. "It's sweet Vanessa stays close to you. Despite what? You know, no mother. And with your modest circumstances." "My circumstances," Sharon cut in smoothly. "Melissa means you've done very well for yourself. Maritime shipping, very respectable. Respectable but not wealthy. I get by." Sharon's eyes sharpened. "Ryan says Vanessa's quite independent. No trust fund or anything. Probing for information. Vanessa works hard. She doesn't need anyone's money." Sharon's disappointment was visible. "Of course." Melissa took another sip. "Well, good thing she's marrying a surgeon. Financial security. That's how you think of this." Sharon smiled coldly. "What else is there? Love, maybe." She laughed. "Love and money. Why choose?" They drifted away and I exhaled slowly. Dinner service began. I took my seat beside Lauren, who leaned close the moment I sat down. Mr. Harrigan, she whispered. Can I ask you something? Of course. Do you trust Ryan? But why do you ask? Because I don't. And I've been Vanessa's best friend for 10 years. He's controlling, subtle, but it's there. And tonight someone told me he kicked a homeless veteran off the entrance. I heard that too. Lauren's expression hardened. That's who he is when no one's watching. And I'm worried for Vanessa. What if I told you I'm handling it? How? I'll watch my toast. At 8:15. What are you going to do? Tell the truth. Or will Vanessa forgive you? I don't know. But she'll be safe. A woman in her 50s approached as the main course was being cleared. Dr. Elizabeth Monroe. I recognized her from earlier. Excuse me, you're Vanessa's father. Yes, Elizabeth Monroe. I need to tell you something about your future son-in-law. Please. She described the encounter outside the homeless veteran Ryan's cruelty, his attempt to gaslight her when she challenged him. He was actively cruel, she said. Not just dismissive. He said the veteran was probably on drugs, faking it. Did anyone else witness this? At least a dozen people. Would you be willing to tell Vanessa? If it helps her, yes. It will. In about 22 minutes. Stand near the front. You'll understand. At 7:54, Arthur Sullivan took the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin the toasts, I have a brief announcement. Many of you know the Harborview Grand has been family-owned for 30 years. Tonight, I'm honored to reveal that one of our guests is not merely a guest. He paused. Stanley Harrigan, Vanessa's father, is the owner of the Harborview Grand. Gasps rippled through the room. Murmurs. Ryan's face went pale. Theodore looked alarmed. Sharon's mouth opened slightly, confusion and calculation warring on her features. Mr. Harrigan has generously hosted this evening as a gift to Vanessa and Ryan. Polite, awkward applause. Ryan stood, forcing a smile. Thank you, Stanley. We had no idea. I nodded. Didn't stand. You don't know a lot of things. As Arthur returned to his seat, I watched Ryan lean toward Theodore, whispering urgently. Sharon's face had gone pale. Melissa was staring at me like I'd just transformed into someone else, which I had. Twice tonight. The room was still buzzing with the revelation that I owned the hotel. They thought that was the surprise. They had no idea. In 8 minutes, I would stand at that microphone and play the video of Ryan Westbrook's cruelty toward a homeless veteran. Then I would remove my suit jacket and reveal the Vietnam veteran's jacket underneath. And I would say, that homeless man was me. The room was still buzzing. They thought that was the surprise. They had no idea. Before I reveal everything to those 487 guests, I need to know you're still with me. If you were in this situation, what do you believe would be the most right and just action to take? Please share your honest thoughts in the comments. I truly want to hear your perspective. And a quick note. The story ahead includes some fictionalized elements created for storytelling purposes. If you'd rather not continue, feel free to close the video here. At 8 o'clock, exactly, the jazz trio fell silent. Arthur dimmed the ballroom lights. Ryan stood at the microphone, champagne flute raised, his smile bright and perfect. Thank you all for being here tonight, he began. Vanessa and I are so fortunate to be surrounded by so much love and support. He spoke about destiny, fate, finding his true other half. He thanked his parents, his colleagues, everyone except the homeless veteran he had humiliated 90 minutes earlier. When he finished, the room erupted in applause. Then Arthur appeared beside me. Mr. Harrigan, your turn. I stood, adjusted my jacket, and walked to the microphone. Behind the navy suit hidden underneath, I wore the tattered Vietnam veteran's jacket. Good evening, I said, my voice steady. For those who don't know me, I'm Stanley Harrigan, Vanessa's father. Polite applause rippled through the ballroom. I want to thank you all for joining our family tonight. Over the past year, I've learned a great deal about Ryan Westbrook. I paused, letting the silence stretch. And tonight, I'm going to share what I've learned with all of you. The tone shifted. 500 people sensing something wrong. Ryan's smile froze at the edges, because the people we love deserve the truth, even when it hurts. Vanessa's smile faded. Dad! Please, look at the screen. I signaled Arthur. The lights dimmed further. The projector flickered to life. The screen displayed a timestamp, 6:15 p.m. hotel entrance. The video began. A figure in a tattered olive jacket sat on wet pavement. A cardboard sign beside him, "Homeless veteran, anything helps, God bless." Then Ryan appeared on screen, stepping out of his BMW. The beggar looked up. "Spare change, sir," my voice hoarse and desperate. "I already said no," Ryan snapped. "Now back off before I call the cops." Gasps rippled through the ballroom. The video continued. Vanessa appeared, seeing the beggar reaching for her purse. "Do you need—" "Vanessa, don't," Ryan cut her off. "You're enabling him. But we talked about this. Remember." On screen, Vanessa hesitated, uncertainty crossing her features. Ryan guided her away, his arm around her shoulders. Protective in appearance, controlling in reality. Uncomfortable whispers spread through the ballroom. The video jumped forward. Ryan emerged again alone and approached the beggar. He pulled out his wallet. Here, buy some soap." His voice was cold, contemptuous. "And next time you want to beg, try not smelling like you just crawled out of a dumpster. Have some self-respect." He threw a $5 bill. It fluttered down, landing on the wet pavement. The humiliation was deliberate. The room gasped audibly. On screen, the beggar stared at the money. Didn't pick it up. "What, not enough?" Ryan said. "That's the problem with people like you. Never satisfied." I have self-respect, sir." The beggar's voice was quiet, dignified. "That's why I'm not picking it up." "You didn't offer, sir. You threw it like I was a dog." The contempt on Ryan's face was absolute. The camera captured it perfectly. The video continued. Ryan turned to a valet. "Get this person off the property. I don't care if you have to drag him." David Torres appeared on screen, helped the beggar stand, escorted him away. The video ended. The screen went black. The lights came up slightly. 487 people sat in stunned silence. Vanessa's hand covered her mouth, tears glistening. Ryan stood, his face flushed. "That video is—" I spoke before he could finish. "That homeless veteran was me." The silence that followed was absolute. 500 people frozen. "I don't believe you," Ryan shouted. "That's impossible." "Is it?" I slowly removed my suit jacket. Underneath, I wore the Vietnam veteran's jacket, tattered and faded. The name tag above the breast pocket read Jenkins, identical to the jacket in the video. The room exploded in gasps, exclamations. I heard Theodore curse. Sharon made a sound like she'd been struck. I held up the cardboard sign. "Homeless veteran, anything helps, God bless." The same sign from the video. I placed it carefully on the podium. "I sat on that sidewalk for 32 minutes, I said. "I asked for basic human compassion. And your fiancé—" I looked directly at Vanessa, showed me exactly who he is. Vanessa stood trembling. "Dad! Why?" Her voice broke. "Why would you do this?" "Because I love you." "This isn't love." Tears streamed down her face. "This is—" Ryan moved toward her. She stumbled back. "Don't touch me." Ryan turned to face me. "This is a setup you manipulated. I gave you a choice," I said calmly. "Kindness or not. You chose." "I didn't know it was you." "Exactly. You treated a stranger with cruelty. That's worse." Dr. Elizabeth Monroe stood. "I was there. I saw everything. Mr. Westbrook was deliberately cruel, not just dismissive, actively cruel." Lauren stood from the head table. "Vanessa, I tried to warn you for months. The way he controls you. The way he's been isolating you from your friends, from me. Ryan's face had gone from red to mottled purple. This is slander, I'll call my lawyer. Theodore stood his chair, slamming back. Stanley, this is revenge for 2004. This has nothing to do with you, Theodore, I said. Though we will get to that. Sit down. I'm not finished. Get to what? I said, sit down. Sharon grabbed his arm, pulled him back. He sat, but his hands were white-knuckled fists. I turned back to the room. The Beggar test showed Ryan's character, but character by itself isn't a crime. I signaled Arthur. New files appeared on screen. What I'm about to show you next is, the screen displayed Eleanor Peterson, case number 1. A photograph appeared. Eleanor at 72, silver hair, warm smile, holding a grandchild. Medical records began to scroll. Ladies and gentlemen, I present evidence of medical malpractice. 2 victims. Over $375,000 in fraudulent billing. And a pattern of deliberately harming elderly patients for profit. Vanessa made a sound, a gasp that was almost a sob. No. Ryan's face had drained of color, gone from purple to chalk white. You can't prove. Watch, I said. Behind me, Eleanor Peterson's medical records filled the screen. At the back of the room, I saw Agent Castellano moving toward the exits, positioning his team along the walls. The arrests were coming. The screen behind me showed Eleanor Peterson's face, a woman in her 70s, with kind eyes and silver hair. Mrs. Peterson came to Ryan Westbrook for a routine hip replacement in 2021, I said. She paid $45,000 in cash for expedited care. 3 months later, she couldn't walk without assistance. Because Ryan Westbrook deliberately left a surgical sponge inside her body during the operation. The room erupted. Vanessa stood shaking her head. No, that's not Dad, stop this! But I couldn't stop. Not now. Eleanor's photograph filled the screen. Beside it, medical records began to scroll. Hospital admission forms, surgical notes, post-operative reports. Eleanor needed a standard hip replacement. I continued. Ryan charged her $45,000 in cash for priority care. The screen showed the timeline. Pre-surgery, Eleanor was healthy. Week 2, post-op severe infection. Week 4, emergency surgery. Week 12, third surgery to remove the forgotten surgical sponge. Ryan billed insurance $135,000 for the complication surgeries. Surgeries made necessary because of what he did. Total misappropriated from Eleanor Peterson, $180,000. The screen changed. Dr. Patricia Vance appeared, a forensic medical examiner. I reviewed Mrs. Peterson's surgical records. The operating room count sheet shows all sponges were accounted for before closure. That means the sponge was placed intentionally after the count. This wasn't medical error. This was deliberate harm. The screen split. Eleanor Peterson appeared current day, leaning on a cane. I trusted Dr. Westbrook. He seemed so caring. Now I can't walk without pain. I'll never be like I was before. I lost my independence, my dignity, my savings. Tears rolled down Eleanor's cheeks. In the ballroom, I heard women crying. Vanessa turned to Ryan, her face pale. Tell me this isn't true. Ryan's hands were shaking. This is taken out of context. Medical complications happen. Eleanor gave permission to share her story, I said. As did Thomas Webster. The screen changed. Thomas Webster, 68, former engineer. Thomas paid Ryan $50,000 cash for spinal surgery. His MRI images clearly showed a herniated disc at L5 to S1. Ryan operated on L4 to L5, the wrong level. The screen displayed the evidence side by side. The preoperative MRI with L5 to S1 highlighted. Surgical notes documenting that L4 to L5 had been operated on instead. The original problem untreated plus new nerve damage from the unnecessary surgery. Dr. Vance appeared again. No competent surgeon makes this mistake. Operating on the wrong level guaranteed a second surgery would be needed. Ryan billed an additional $145,000 for that second operation. Thomas appeared on screen, seated in a wheelchair. I woke up in more pain than before. Dr. Westbrook said I needed a second surgery. That surgery caused permanent nerve damage. I paid him $195,000 total. He took my money and my life. So 2 victims, 2 acts of deliberate harm. Total misappropriated over $375,000. Ryan stood. This is character assassination. No, you were a respected surgeon, I said, until you decided profit mattered more than people. He turned to Vanessa. Don't listen to him, he's lying. Vanessa stepped back. Those medical records, they're real. Authenticated by 3 independent experts, I said. The FBI verified them. The screen changed. Ryan Westbrook financial crisis. Numbers populated in columns. Total debt, $520,000. Monthly expenses, $28,000. Income after taxes, $19,000 per month. Monthly deficit, negative $9,000. Ryan Westbrook was drowning in debt. He couldn't sustain his lifestyle without additional income, so he targeted elderly wealthy patients and manufactured complications. The screen shifted. Trust Fund Vanessa Harrigan. Amount $65 million. Vanessa gasped. What? You didn't know. I established it when you were born. You were supposed to learn about it at 30 or upon marriage. Ryan knew. He researched me before he met you. A prenuptial agreement appeared on screen requesting 50% of marital assets, including all trust funds. He wasn't marrying you for love, sweetheart. He was marrying you for $32.5 million. Vanessa made a sound like she'd been struck, and Ryan learned this behavior from someone. Theodore Westbrook, 24 years ago. The screen changed. Wire transfer records showing Theodore paying port official Walter Hughes $500,000. Sabotage reports. Contract records. Theodore stood, his face purple. That's ancient history. The statute of limitations has expired on some charges, but not on money laundering. Your 2020 loan to Ryan, $220,000, 0 interest, no repayment schedule. That wasn't a loan. That was laundering. Agent Castellano stepped forward, holding up his FBI badge. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Special Agent Robert Castellano, FBI. We have warrants for the arrest of Ryan Westbrook and Theodore Westbrook. Shocked gasps echoed through the ballroom. Ryan Westbrook charges include intentional medical malpractice with intent to harm, insurance fraud, and elder abuse. Theodore Westbrook charges include bribery, money laundering, and criminal conspiracy. Ryan's voice was strangled. This is illegal. I want a lawyer. Vanessa looked at Ryan. Tell me it's not true. Vanessa, I love you. Did you hurt those people? It's complicated. Yes or no? Her voice rose to a scream. Ryan's mouth opened, closed. I needed the money. The debts. Vanessa pulled the engagement ring from her finger and threw it at him. It bounced off his chest, fell to the floor. We're done. She collapsed into Lauren's arms, sobbing. The ballroom descended into chaos. Ryan stood frozen as 4 FBI agents approached with handcuffs. Theodore backed toward the exit, but agents blocked his path. Sharon was screaming. Guests were standing, shouting, filming on phones. And at the center, Vanessa sat in her white dress, her face buried in Lauren's shoulder, her body racked with sobs. I had exposed Ryan Westbrook. I had stopped the wedding. I had saved my daughter from a dangerous man. But looking at her crying, I understood the cost. She might never forgive me. Agent Castellano nodded to his team. Ryan Westbrook, you are under arrest. The handcuffs locked around Ryan Westbrook's wrists with a sound that echoed through the suddenly silent ballroom. 487 people watched a man in a $3,000 suit become a criminal in custody. Ryan's face had gone from red to white to ashen gray. Agent Castellano read the Miranda rights in a flat professional tone. "You have the right to remain silent," but Ryan wasn't silent. "This is illegal. I'm being railroaded. Stanley Harrigan set me up." "Ryan Westbrook, you are under arrest for intentional medical malpractice with intent to harm, insurance fraud, elder abuse, and criminal conspiracy," Castellano said. Two agents flanked Ryan, gripping his arms. "I didn't do anything. This is a setup. You are being charged based on evidence collected over 12 weeks. Mr. Harrigan's test tonight was supplementary." Ryan twisted, trying to break free. "Get your hands off me!" He turned toward Vanessa, his eyes wild with desperation. "Vanessa, please, tell them this is insane." Vanessa stood, frozen tears streaming. "You hurt people. For money. I was desperate, the debts. You could have asked for help. From who your father, he hated me. Because he knew what you were. I love you. You loved my trust fund." The engagement ring lay on the floor between them. Ryan's face contorted. "Vanessa, don't do this. It's done." As he passed me, Ryan stopped, twisting against the agent's grip. "I'll destroy you for this." I met his eyes, my voice calm. "You destroyed yourself." Before Ryan reached the door, 4 more FBI agents closed in on Theodore Westbrook. He froze as they surrounded him. "Theodore Westbrook, you are under arrest for bribery of a federal official, money laundering, and criminal conspiracy." Theodore's face went purple. "This is about 2004 statute of limitations has expired. Your 2020 transaction with your son reopened the investigation. Money laundering has no statute of limitations when the activity is ongoing." Theodore turned to me, his voice a snarl. "You couldn't beat me 20 years ago, so you fabricated this." "I didn't fabricate your wire transfers. Or your loan to Ryan." The agent pulled out a document. "The grand jury indicted you this afternoon." Theodore's face changed. "This wasn't just my revenge. This was federal prosecution." Sharon rushed forward, her voice shrill. "Theodore, call our lawyer!" As the agents led Theodore past me, he leaned close. "I should have finished you in 2004. You did finish me," I said quietly. "I just rebuilt." They took him away. Across the room, Vanessa pulled away from Lauren and walked toward me, her steps unsteady but determined. "How could you—" Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it cut like a blade. "Sweetheart, I had to humiliate me in front of 500 people. I was protecting you by lying to me for weeks, by pretending to be homeless and manipulating Ryan. I showed you who he really was." "No." Her voice rose. "You showed me who you really are. A manipulator. A liar. Someone who destroys people's lives and calls it protection." The words hit like a physical blow. "Vanessa, he hurt people, Dad. Eleanor Peterson can't walk without pain. Thomas Webster is in a wheelchair. I understand that. But you could have told me privately. You didn't have to destroy me publicly. He was after your trust fund." "I don't even have a trust fund. You have $65 million. I established it when you were born. That's why he chose you. He researched me before your first date." She stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. 65. What? He knew about the trust fund. You didn't." I watched another layer of betrayal settle over her. "I loved him, Dad. I know. And you took that from me. You took my choice, my autonomy, my happiness. I took a lie. Ryan wasn't real. But my feelings were real, and you humiliated them in front of everyone I know." She was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. I reached for her, but but she stepped back. "Don't touch me. I can't even look at you right now." She turned and walked away, Lauren catching up to her at the door. They left together. Vanessa didn't look back. Sharon appeared in front of me, her face twisted with rage. "You destroyed my family. Your family destroyed itself. We'll sue you for slander. Everything I said tonight is documented and authenticated. Go ahead and sue." Dr. Monroe approached me, her expression somber. "You did the right thing. That man was dangerous. You saved your daughter." "She doesn't see it that way." "She will, eventually." I wanted to believe her, but looking at the empty doorway where Vanessa had disappeared, I wasn't sure. The ballroom began to empty. By 9:15, it was nearly deserted. Henry stood near the entrance. "It's done," he said. "Yes. Eleanor and Thomas will get justice." "I know." Was it worth it? I looked at the empty chair where Vanessa had been sitting. Her napkin lay crumpled on the table, mascara stains visible. "Ask me in 6 months." Arthur appeared hesitant. "Sir, the hotel..." "Leave it. I'll pay for everything. Just give me a minute alone." They left, and I sat in the empty ballroom until well past midnight, surrounded by the ruins of what should have been a celebration. I had won the battle. Ryan was in custody. The wedding was stopped. Vanessa was safe. But sitting in the darkened ballroom, Catherine's photo in my pocket, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had lost something irreplaceable, my daughter's trust, and I didn't know if I would ever get it back. 6 weeks after the engagement party, I sat in my study and read the headline for the 100th time. "Orthopedic surgeon sentenced to 15 years for medical malpractice conspiracy." Ryan Westbrook's mugshot stared at me from the newspaper. The same face that had smiled at my daughter across candlelit dinners, the same man who had harmed elderly patients for profit. The trial had moved quickly. With the evidence I had gathered, Ryan's attorneys advised him to plead guilty for a reduced sentence. 15 years, minimum 10 before parole eligibility. Medical license permanently revoked. $2.1 million in restitution to victims. And Vanessa hadn't spoken to me in 42 days. Theodore's trial had taken 3 weeks. Federal charges, bribery, money laundering, spanning 2020 through 2024, criminal conspiracy. The jury convicted him on all counts. 25 years federal prison, $15 million in restitution. Theodore would die in custody 8 years into his sentence, a heart attack, in the prison medical facility. I wanted accountability, not death. But Theodore had chosen his path. Sharon's crimes had emerged during the FBI's financial investigation. Embezzlement from the Harborview Children's Fund, $680,000 siphoned over 7 years. She pleaded guilty, received 8 years federal prison, $1.2 million in restitution. Every charity board expelled her name. Melissa received probation for real estate fraud and tax evasion. 5 years supervised release, $90,000 in fines. She lost her real estate license and moved to another state. Before she left, she sent me a brief note. "You were right about us. I'm sorry for what we did to your family." Eleanor Peterson and Thomas Webster both received restitution. Eleanor got $800,000. Thomas received $1.3 million for ongoing care needs. Both gave victim impact statements at Ryan's sentencing. I worked from home those 6 weeks, delegating most responsibilities. I avoided social events, ate alone, slept poorly. I called Vanessa daily the first week. Every call went to voicemail, then eventually straight to a message saying the number was blocked. I sent letters the second week. They came back unopened. I tried visiting her apartment the third week. Lauren intercepted me at the door. "She's not ready, Mr. Harrigan." "Will she ever be ready?" "I don't know." I sent flowers the fourth week, Vanessa's favorite yellow roses. No response. The fifth week was her birthday. Vanessa turned 29. The card came back marked, "Return to sender." Henry visited weekly, checking on me. You saved her life, he said during one visit. Did I just destroy her happiness? Ryan wasn't happiness. He was a lie. But the lie made her happy. Does that matter? Not if the truth would have destroyed her. The truth destroyed her anyway. Dr. Monroe came to see me during the third week. I wanted to thank you for doing what most people wouldn't. You stopped him. You saved future victims. I lost my daughter in the process. She's grieving, not just for Ryan, but for the future she imagined. Give her time. She'll come back. Maybe not today, but eventually. What if she doesn't? Then you still did the right thing. Parenting isn't about being loved. It's about keeping them safe. I cried then for the first time since Catherine died. Dr. Monroe sat with me in silence until I could breathe again. Lauren updated me on Vanessa's condition during the fourth week. We met at a park bench near the waterfront. She took leave from the hospital. Psychological trauma. She's seeing a therapist twice a week. What does the therapist say? That she's processing betrayal on multiple levels. Ryan's lies. Your test. The public humiliation. The loss of the future she had planned. I didn't betray her. I protected her. You tested Ryan without telling her. You exposed everything publicly. From her perspective, you controlled the situation without her consent. I was protecting her. I know, but she needed autonomy. You took that away. The words hit hard because they were true. How is she healing? Had week 2, she cried constantly. Week 3 was anger. Week 4 was numbness. Week 5, breakthrough in therapy. She started processing. Week 6, she asked me something. What? She asked. Do you think my dad was right? I said, about Ryan, yes. She said about how he did it. I told her I didn't know. But that you love her. What did she say? She said that doesn't excuse it. 2 days later, Lauren called. She's willing to meet. Once, 1 hour. When? Tomorrow, 2 p.m., Harborview Cafe, ground rules, no excuses, no justifications, just listen to her. I arrived 15 minutes early a Saturday afternoon in June. The place was quiet. Lauren had reserved a corner table. I sat facing the door, heart pounding. Vanessa arrived exactly at 2. She was thinner, dark circles under her eyes. Her hair was pulled back, simply no makeup. Lauren walked in behind her, took a table 20 feet away. Vanessa sat across from me. Didn't speak. 2 minutes passed in silence. Thank you for coming, I finally said. Lauren made me come. More silence. Then Vanessa spoke, her voice quiet but steady. I loved him, Dad. I know. I was going to marry him. Build a life. I imagined our children. Our house. Growing old together. And you took that from me. He wasn't real, Vanessa. Don't tell me what was real. My feelings were real. My love was real. Just because Ryan lied doesn't mean it erases what I felt. You're right, I'm sorry. You humiliated me in front of 500 people. Everyone I know saw me cry. You could have told me privately. Would you have believed me? That's not the point. It is the point. If I had told you, you would have defended him. Maybe, but that would have been my choice. Her voice rose. You took away my agency, my autonomy. You decided what was best for me like I was a child. You are my child. I'm 29 years old. I'm not your child anymore. Every word was justified. Every accusation true. I sat with it. You're right. About all of it. I should have found another way, but I couldn't risk Ryan manipulating you. So you manipulated me instead. The words hung between us. I wanted to deny it, but she deserved honesty. Yes, she looked shocked that I had admitted it. At least you admit it. I won't lie to you, not ever again. I manipulated the situation. I controlled everything, and I hurt you deeply. I'm sorry, Vanessa. I'm profoundly sorry. Tears filled her eyes. I don't forgive you. I'm not asking you to. Not yet. I don't know if I ever will. I understand. I need time, a lot of time. Take as much as you need. She stood to leave, then stopped. Dad. Yes, I thank you for stopping him. I hate how you did it. But those people, Eleanor, Thomas, they didn't deserve what he did to them. Neither did you. Fresh tears spilled over. I'm not ready to see you again. Not soon. I'll wait. She walked to Lauren's table. They left together. Vanessa didn't look back. I sat alone at that cafe table for another hour. I don't forgive you. I hadn't expected forgiveness, but her final words, thank you for stopping him, had given me the smallest spark of hope. That night I took out Catherine's photo. I did what you asked. I protected our daughter. But the cost. Outside the window, Harborview Marina glowed with ship lights. I had survived poverty, sabotage, loss, and isolation before. I could survive Vanessa's anger. I just hoped I wouldn't have to survive it forever. October arrived in Seattle with the kind of light that made you believe in second chances. Golden and slanted, softening the edges of the harbor below. I stood at the window of my study holding my phone, rereading the message that had arrived the night before. Dad, coffee tomorrow, same place, 10 a.m. 6 months had passed since the engagement party. 6 months since I destroyed Ryan Westbrook in front of 487 witnesses and broke my daughter's heart. The weeks after were the longest of my life. Vanessa blocked my calls. She returned my letters unopened. When I showed up at her apartment in week 3, Lauren said very gently that Vanessa wasn't ready. I sent flowers in week 4. Silence. The birthday card in week 5 came back marked, Return to Sender. By week 6, I stopped trying. Henry told me to give her time. Dr. Monroe said that healing wasn't linear. Patricia O'Neill, who volunteered with me at the Veterans Shelter twice a week, reminded me I had done the right thing even if it felt like the worst thing. So I gave Vanessa time. And in that time, I changed. I started seeing a therapist in March, someone who specialized in family systems and trauma. When does protection become control, Stanley? She asked during our 4th session. Over the months, we unpacked my marriage to Catherine, my guilt over her death, my obsessive need to keep Vanessa safe. My therapist helped me see that I had been parenting a 9-year-old grief for 20 years. Vanessa was 29 now. She didn't need a bodyguard. She needed a father who trusted her choices. I stepped back from Harrigan Maritime. Daniel Morrison became CEO in May. I stayed on as chairman, but my role was advisory now. With the extra time, I traveled. 3 weeks in New Zealand, 2 weeks in Japan. A week in Norway, where I stood at the edge of a fjord and felt for the first time in years like I wasn't carrying the weight of the world. When I returned to Seattle in late June, I started volunteering at the Harborview Veterans Shelter. I met veterans who had lost everything and were rebuilding their lives one day at a time. They taught me about resilience and humility. Vanessa reached out in late September. A single text, "How was your trip?" I wrote back, "Beautiful. I thought about you every day." An hour later, "I've been thinking too. Can we talk?" And now here I was, walking into the Harborview Cafe at 5 minutes to 10, looking for my daughter. She was already there, sitting at the same table. But she looked different. Healthier. Her hair was shorter, and she wore a burnt orange sweater that made her look confident and warm. When she saw me, she smiled. A real one. "Hi, Dad," she said as I sat down. "Hi, sweetheart," I said. My voice cracked. We ordered coffee. Then Vanessa spoke. "I've been in therapy, twice a week since May. After everything with Ryan and the party and you, I was so angry. At him, obviously, but also at you." "And I know," and I said, "you had every right to be." My therapist helped me understand. I was angry for two reasons. First, because you made me feel like I couldn't make my own decisions. And second, because you were right about Ryan. And I hated that. I stayed quiet, letting her talk. Ryan was dangerous. He hurt people intentionally for money. I almost married him. I would have if you hadn't stopped it. So part of me is grateful, but part of me is still furious that you didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth before that night. I should have told you sooner, I said. I was afraid you wouldn't believe me, or that you'd choose him anyway. I might have, Vanessa admitted. But you didn't give me the chance. You took that from me. I did, I said. And I'm sorry. I know you are. We talked for another hour. Vanessa had gone back to work at Harborview in July and had just been promoted to head nurse in the pediatric ICU. She told me about her therapy support group, about Lauren who had been her rock. And then with a small smile, she told me about James. James Cooper was 33, a social worker specializing in housing advocacy. They had been dating for 6 weeks. He's kind. He listens. He doesn't try to control me. He just lets me be me. I'd like to meet him, I said. Maybe someday, but not yet. Vanessa also told me about the trust fund. She had taken control in June and donated $5 million to a fund for medical malpractice victims, inspired by Eleanor Peterson and Thomas Webster. If I have that much money, I want it to mean something. I told her I was proud of her. I meant it. Then she asked the question I had been dreading. Dad, if you could go back, would you do it differently? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I would have told you sooner. I would have trusted you to make the choice yourself. But would I have let you marry him without exposing him? No, I couldn't do that. So you'd still do it. I'd do it differently, but yes, I'd still do it. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I think I understand now. You weren't trying to control me. You were trying to save my life. And maybe you did. We left the cafe at 11. Vanessa hugged me, and I held her for a long time. I love you, Dad. I'm not all the way there yet. But I'm getting there. I love you too. Take all the time you need. That night, I sat in my study with 2 photographs. One was Catherine, taken on our honeymoon in Greece. The other was Vanessa, a candid shot from a hiking trail in the Cascades, laughing, her face turned toward the sky, free and unburdened. I thought about the man I had been 6 months ago, about to destroy everything to save my daughter. I thought about Harold Jenkins, the homeless veteran I had become. I thought about Ryan Westbrook, now serving 15 years. I thought about Theodore, dead in federal custody. I thought about justice and cost and the fine line between protection and control. And I thought about Vanessa, who was healing, who was strong, who had chosen to forgive me at least part way. Outside, the Seattle skyline glowed against the October sky. Somewhere in that city, my daughter was building a new life. And for the first time in 6 months, I felt something close to peace. Looking back, I ask myself, was it worth it? I saved Vanessa from a predator, but I broke her trust for 6 months. That's the lesson here. Don't be like me. Don't let fear turn protection into control. God gave us free will for a reason. We can't make choices for the people we love, no matter how much we want to protect them. This family betrayal cut deeper than any business failure. This isn't just another Grandpa Stories session about the past. This is a warning. Family betrayal takes many forms. Ryan saw Vanessa as a $65 million opportunity. Theodore sacrificed integrity for wealth. And I betrayed my daughter's autonomy because I thought I knew best. God forgive me, I forgot that loving someone means trusting them to walk their own path, even into danger. The grandpa stories I heard growing up always had clean endings. Real life is messier. It's hearing your daughter say, I'm not all the way there yet, and knowing you caused that pain. But here's what I believe: God calls us to make the best choice we can, with what we know than live with the consequences. If this story made you think about your own family betrayal or the price of protection, leave a comment. Share this with someone who needs it. Subscribe for more grandpa stories that challenge how we think about love and control. Thank you for staying until the end. A final note. These stories blend real experiences with fictionalized elements for educational purposes. If this content doesn't serve you, choose what does. God bless.